Oh my God, I love YouTube. On YouTube, I learned that leadership is whatever we want it to be. Isn't that nice? That makes you feel warm all over. Hey everybody, this week I got a question from a channel member actually, who asked a leadership related question. In particular, they asked how to be tough without being a jerk. I think that's a great question. I'm going to rephrase that actually as how to get compliance from your subordinates without being a jerk. Now, this is awesome because in this day and age, with all the emphasis that we place on being positive and being friendly and creating a very positive work environment, a lot of you guys that are out in the real world and you're on the front lines of this, you know that, I mean, that sounds all well and good, but at the end of the day, you need your subordinates to deliver. They need to follow rules, they need to work hard and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of challenging to get that when at the same time you're trying to be everybody's best friend, right? You're the boss, but you're also kind of their best friend. It's a bit of a conflict. So I think the way to really phrase this question, really put it in perspective, is how to get your subordinates to look up to you, okay, and be well regarded while simultaneously getting obedience, getting compliance from them. Okay, now in this video, I'm going to give you the method that I have employed throughout my career from being a frontline supervisor all the way up to a CEO. Okay, I'm going to give you that method. It's like a 3-step process. And then I'm going to give you, because this method is not original to me. I hate this cliche, but I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, okay? And I'm going to give you the sources of where this comes from if you want to check out those sources and read a bit more about it and go deeper, okay? So here's the deal. This is how I have handled this issue throughout my career. And I've had some success at this, okay? 3 steps. Number 1, first thing you got to do is you got to make sure that everybody knows the rules. Okay, you can't have a situation where an employee inadvertently breaks a rule, not realizing it's a rule, and then they get in trouble. Okay, you can't have that. You got to make sure that everybody understands what the rules are. You also have to make sure that everybody understands why those rules are in place. Okay, because if there's a rule they don't understand, it doesn't make any sense to them. It makes it harder for them to follow that rule, to comply with it. Okay, so everybody's got to understand why what the rules are, why they exist, and then finally, you got to make sure everybody understands the penalties or the consequences for violating any of those rules. Okay, this is step 1. A lot of people don't do this. They regard this as kind of a little bit unpleasant, and so they shy away from it. No, you got to make sure everybody understands this. The sort of thing that you do when you're onboarding a new employee and you take them through everything, you got to make sure that everybody is on the same page here. So that's step 1. Okay. Now, if you've done that, and rules. When I say rules, what I mean is it could be company policy. It could be your expectations. It could also be like, regulatory stuff, like any rules, basically, okay? It applies to all of that stuff. Okay, so that's step 1. Make sure everybody understands the stuff and it's clear. Step 2, you got to realize that your default behavior, okay, as the boss, should be friendly, accommodating, agreeable, approachable, okay? You should not be aloof and gruff and unapproachable. A lot of people seem to think that that's how you act when you're the boss. Yeah, that's how you act when you're a bad boss. But there's no need to be like that when everything's going fine. Your default behavior should be positive, accommodating, approachable, reasonable, that kind of thing, okay? You should commend people for following the rules. Normally, we don't do this. Okay, we don't take time out to say, way to go, for someone just doing kind of part of their job. But you got to occasionally do that, especially when you notice that they put real effort into it, okay? You got to reward people for overachieving, okay? Never lose patience with employees. Easier said than done. And I've had some struggles with this in the past on occasion, but this is the goal, okay? And your job, or put it this way, my job, the way I saw my job was to build everybody up, create a positive work environment, create an environment that people want to be in so that they enjoy what they do, so that they become more passionate about it, so that their productivity goes up. Okay? It also helps with things like reducing employee turnover and increasing retention and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's step 2. Okay, your default behavior should be positive, rewarding, create a positive environment. Okay. Finally, step 3 of 3. Okay, step 3 is that if somebody violates a rule, okay, you have to strictly enforce the penalties or consequences. No exceptions. Okay, you can't sort of give one employee a break but not another. You have to treat everybody fairly. You have to treat everybody the same. And you have to enforce the penalties. Okay? That's step 3. And, this can be a challenge. This can be a challenge for a lot of people on many levels. First of all, on a personal level, for a lot of people, this can be unpleasant. Okay, having to lay down the law, having to dish out penalties or consequences, especially if, like in step 2, you're trying to create a positive work environment. It can also be a challenge because, if let's pretend that your best worker did something bad, you still have to dish out penalties for your best worker. Now, this can get tricky if you have things like zero tolerance policies for violence in the workplace, bullying, harassment, things like this, and somebody violates that. There's a lot of forces that are trying to get you not to terminate your best employee and not to impose harsh penalties on them. But you've got to, or else the entire thing comes crashing down. So that's the 3-step process, okay? Make sure the rules are very clear. Number 2, be very, very positive. And then number 3, if people still violate the rules, you gotta impose the punishments or the consequences. If you can do that, you tend to get the best of both worlds. People take the rules seriously, they take your expectations seriously, but you're commending a lot of people, you're creating a very positive environment as long as everybody knows exactly what they have to do, and if they do it, it's great. So that's kind of my 3-step sort of breakdown of how you would solve this problem. Okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is not original to me, okay? Apart from standard management theory, I've borrowed from 2 sources in particular throughout my career. 2 sources had a big influence on me. The first one is kind of a cliche. Everybody knows about it. It's Sun Tzu's Art of War. Okay, there's a lot of people that like to quote from this ancient book in the world of business. You got to be careful, though. You see, Sun Tzu was writing about how to fight battles and how to fight wars, and he wrote a manual on this. And part of it includes how to handle your soldiers, okay? If you're some kind of leader, military leader, you're going to have a certain number of soldiers under you. This is how to lead them. Now, are employees in an organization just like soldiers in a war? No, they're not. Okay, it's not the same thing. With employees, it's not a life or death situation, and employees can always quit. They can leave when they don't enjoy doing what they're being asked to do. Okay, so it's a little bit different when you're talking about employees and when you're talking about soldiers. So you can't just employ what Sun Tzu says all the time, but there's a lot of great principles there. Okay, so if you want to read more of this, you could check out that book. It's very old, but it's very, very short, and you can find it for free on the internet in a lot of different places. The other source where I got a lot of this material from is another source that has had a big influence on me, and that's well known in the world of management, but not really outside of the world of management. And this is Ernest Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton, he was an explorer about 100 years ago, and he was known for his work in the Antarctic. And he gained a reputation for being a great leader. And that was because he led crews of people, okay, into on these very dangerous voyages, missions into the Antarctic. And they encountered a lot of life and death situations. And he was well known for two things. He was well known for being a strict disciplinarian, but kind of unbelievably, he was also extremely well liked by the people that had to serve under him. And he was way ahead of the curve on leadership abilities, because he was regarded as a very, very positive leader, but yet he got people to achieve some incredible things. And he did it by many different methods, including employing pretty serious punishments. So I will put a link to the Wikipedia page on Ernest Shackleton in the description of this video. If this interests you, I highly recommend you check it out. It's a fascinating person who did some extraordinary things and was way ahead of the curve on leadership skills. So check that out. Anyway, I hope this was helpful in some way. Thank you very much to everybody who's sending in questions. You guys are awesome. And if I can follow my finger here, it's kind of hard because my screen's backwards, but I have a new course that's going to be coming out in the next 4 to 6 weeks called the $100 MBA Course. And I'm going to be talking about, among other business topics, I'm going to be talking about leadership in that course. So if you want to get the full Monty, check that out when it comes out. Thank you very much. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.